This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Bruchim Haba, welcome everyone. Parshas Pekudei, the final Parsha on Sefer Shemais. So we want to thank Dr. Zakheim and Mishpachta for sponsoring the Shiurim on Sefer Shemais, L'ilei Nishmas Reb Shlomo Eliezer ben Rav Yaakov Zakheim, and L'ilei Nishmas Mother Rivka Bas Tuvia Halevi. We thank her for sponsoring Sefer Shemais, Mevarach their family, Simchas Anachas, Arbias Goyal Tzedek. Tonight's Shiur is sponsored by Yedidi, Dr. Meir Fuchs, who is the sponsor of the humble Sefer Magid Horakia on Purim in Lashon HaKodesh. So if you got the English one last week, that doesn't mean that you can't get the Hebrew one this week, and vice versa. They're different pieces. And tonight is Dr. Fuchs's mother's yard site, so tonight's Shiur is dedicated to Nishmas Chana Bas Meir Yitzchak, whose yard site is tonight, Rosh Chodesh Adar, Began Eden, Tehimenu Chasa, Shubiyim Elisa Yishar for their whole family, for Simchas Anachas, Arbias Goyal Tzedek. Okay, Purim. Purim is coming up. The best Shiurim are on Purim, but it's also Parshas Pekudei. So let us begin in the following way. The Medrash tells us regarding the Machzas HaShekel. So even though this week is not Kisisa, but we're going to go back to the Machzas HaShekel a little bit. And the Medrash wants to know, what's the union of the Machzas HaShekel? Why do we give a Machzas HaShekel? The Medrash first talks about Pidyon Haben. Raise your hand if you ever went to a Pidyon Haben. Raise your hand if you ever made a Pidyon Haben. Yeah. Okay. What's the inyan of a Pidyon Haben? The 5 selah that we give to the Kohen is a kapara for Mechiras Yosef, which was 5 selah. Okay, interesting. What Pidyon Haben has to do with Mechiras Yosef, that we're going to save for a different time. But, says the Medrash, if you look at number 7, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Lashvatim, Atem mechartem b'nosha Rachel b'esrim kasef. You sold the son of Rachel for 20 silver pieces. Lefikach yeh kol echad ve'echad magia bekal agolgoyles. Therefore, each and every person, it should reach a half a coin per head. In other words, the Medrash makes the following cheshbon. They sold Yosef for 20 silver pieces. 10 of the brothers sold Yosef, so that comes out that each brother got 2 dinar for the sale of Yosef. 2 dinar equals a half a shekel. So the purpose of Machzas HaShekel is to bring a kapara for Mechiras Yosef. You ever hear that? That the reason you give a Machzas HaShekel is to atone for Mechiras Yosef. So, on Erev Purim, you're going to go to the pushka, go to that plate, and they're going to be these old rusty half silver dollars. Did I ever tell you the miracle that happened with the half silver dollars? We don't have time now, but I have a really good story about that. Mamish, a miracle, one of the most unbelievable things that ever happened to me. Anyway, the reason why we give a half a shekel, when you put in that $1.50 and you pick up the 3 silver shekel and you're going to lift it up, you should think this is a kapara for Mechiras Yosef. That is what the Medrash says. What in the world does Machzas HaShekel have to do with Mechiras Yosef? I mean, what Machzas HaShekel is in Kisisa, it goes to the Adonim of the Mishkan, right? This week's Parsha talks about the Adonim. Why exactly is the Machzas HaShekel a kapara for Mechiras Yosef? Let's talk about another question. The Gemara tells us in Masechta Megillah, Amar Reish Lakish, it is revealed and known before he who said and the world came into being, that Haman was destined to weigh out for the Jewish people Asara Salafim Kikar Kesef, 10,000 talents of silver. So, and Haman was going to garner a certain kayach and a certain power by measuring out those machzas, those shekel, and therefore God preempted Haman. Haman wanted to kill us in Yud Gimel Adar, therefore we preempt him annually by giving the machzas HaShekel every year. When do they start announcing about the Machzas HaShekel? Rosh Chodesh Adar. Tonight in Yerushalayim, they would have these trucks going around with the loudspeaker. Everyone give a Machzas HaShekel! Everyone give a Machzas HaShekel! And on all the signs, they would poster everywhere. plaster everywhere. Everyone has to give the machzas hashekel. Of course, the machzas hashekel would go to the carbon tamid, which was had to be renewed. The fund had to be renewed Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and a month before we would make a collection for the machzas hashekel, and that was done on Adar. But the Gemara says the deeper reason of why that was done in Adar is to preempt Haman. Haman was coming, and this is an interesting idea, because what do you mean we preempt him? It's now 1,000 years after Haman. Haman tried to kill us on Yud Gimel Adar. Oh, we preempt him on Rosh Chodesh Adar 1,000 years later? But the idea is that the power of Haman is annual. It's a living koyach. That's why we fast every year, Tainus Esther, to mevatel this year's Haman. And every year we go through the mitzvahs of Purim to again abolish Haman, the annual Haman. And how do we abolish Haman's koyach of measuring out the silver coins? By announcing the machzas hashekel every Rosh Chodesh Adar. So now the question is, how does the machzas hashekel, what is it about the machzas hashekel that overcomes Haman? Like, what's the quality of machzas hashekel that overcomes Haman? And another interesting thing is the Gemara says, aside from the announcement about the machzas hashekel in Rosh Chodesh Adar, there's another thing we announce in Rosh Chodesh Adar. The Gemara says, "V'hainu d'tnan be'echad be'adar mashmiyan al hashkalim." On the first day, you have any sheets of Adar, we call out about the shkalim and v'al haklayim, and about klayim. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Every Rosh Chodesh Adar, we would call out about klayim. We would make the following announcement. Most people during the winter, they're a little bit sluggish, and they're a little out of touch, and they're a little disoriented, and they're bogged down, and they're not really following what's going on in their fields. And over the course of the winter, things could start to grow on their own, and maybe some klayim started to grow together. And therefore, on the first day of Adar, we call out, make sure that you don't have grapes and wheat, growing together. And we make an announcement that you need to separate all klayim in the fields. So it's very interesting that basically we make two announcements. Everyone, make sure you give machzas hashekel, and everyone separate your klayim. Like what does one have to do with the other? What does the machzas hashekel got to do with the making sure that people don't have klayim planted in their fields? So let us begin with the drasha of Siach Yitzchak, Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac Chaver, who is called the Pesh Lishi. He's called the Pesh Lishi. He's a student of the Vilna Gaon, and he has an incredible exposition about the machzas hashekel and about the subject of Achdus. He says as follows. He says that when Klal Yisrael is in unity, they are blessed by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and when Klal Yisrael is ba'Achdus, they are not limited by number. Number by definition is finite. Number by definition is finite. You have 3, you have 7, you have 1 billion, but a number is finite. But when we're one, then we could connect to the infinite, we could connect to Hashem, and then we're not subject to finite, and we could be blessed with all the blessings in the world. So basically, the Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac Chaver says that when Klal Yisrael is one and we're not counted, see the danger is, remember in Kisisa, Hashem says, don't count the Jewish people. If you count the Jewish people, they're going to be subject to plague. But when we're not counted, that means we're one. Counted means he's one guy by himself, that guy over there, that hot shot in deep right field, and that big shot over there. But that's when we're counted. When we're not counted, then we all recognize we need each other. I need your talents, he needs you, you need me, and so forth. And when Klal Yisrael is bi'achdus, then we could connect to Hashem Echad, and we could gain all the blessing in the world. Like Chazal tell us that if Klal Yisrael would be ba'achdus, HaKadosh Baruch Hu would even forego and forgive the Aveira of Avodah Zarah. Therefore, but once we're disparate, then Hashem says, I'm one. If you guys are not one, I'm not with you. So what happens if Chas v'Shalom Hashem says, I'm not with you? Then we're going to be governed by mazalos. Now here's the problem. North Koreans have a mazal. Russians have a mazal. Ukrainians have a mazal. Polacks have a mazel. Klal Yisrael has no mazel, which means that naturally we should not exist. Like when Hashem told Abraham looked up in the stars. Abraham said, hey, I don't exist. God said, you're right. Naturally, you don't exist. I carry you above the stars. You're connected to me. But when we can't connect to God, then we have no right to exist. So if we're not ba'achdos, then we can't connect to Hashem Echad. And we can't connect to Hashem Echad, we cannot exist, period. So comes Haman, and Haman throws this dagger at the Jewish people. What's the dagger? Take a look at number 3. Va'yomer Haman melech Achashverosh yeshno yam echad mefuzar u'mefayrod bein ha'amim. You see, Achashverosh says, I'm afraid to start up with the Jewish people. They're I'm afraid of their God. So Haman says, you don't have to be afraid of their God. Their God is not with them. Achashverosh says, what do you mean their God is not with them? No! Yeshno yam echad! They used to be one, but now mefuzar u'mefayrod. They're disparate. They can't get along. He doesn't like him. She doesn't like her. They don't like each other. They go to each other's simchas, and when they're just like eyeing each other, and they're jealous of each other, and they're thinking, when is it going to be over, and why him, and he's not worthy of it, he's not deserving, and they're just like bitter towards each other. So Haman says, don't worry, God's not with them. God's only with them when they're one. But they're not one. They're mefuzar mefayrad. Right? And we said many times, that's the Manos Halevi says that's the reason for Mishlayach Manos, to create unity in Klal Yisrael, to show Haman was wrong. That's why Esther says, Lech kenois eskal haYehudim. Here's the plan. Gather them. And do what? Do nothing. Just gather them. Now, here's the secret of the century. Okay? Everyone says, Achdos, let's all get along. Let's kumbaya, let's have a kumzitz and sing songs that have Yerushalayim in it. Okay? And maybe thank you Hashem also. No, that has nothing to do with Achdus. And we have to know, should you be ba'achdus with all Jews? Maybe not. We'll see. With who? Who should you be ba'achdus with? What's the importance of Achdus? Says Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac Chaver, a frightening idea. There are 2 forces of evil in the world. There's the Samach Mem, and there's the Nachash. And that's one couple that, you know where they got married. That is some couple. The Samach Mem and the Nachash. The force of impurity and the snake. And they are this really great couple. If they ever got together, when they do get together, they destroy the world. The Samach Mem and the Nachash. And corresponding to them is Kudsha Brichu and the Shechina. For those who say L'Shem Yichud, you say a mitzvah is you want to be Meyached Kudsha Brichu and the Shechina. Now, what exactly that means? What does it mean to be Meyached Kudsha Brichu and the Shechina? Hashem is one. How could we even say Hashem has different elements? But there is such a concept. There's Kudsha Brichu and the Shechina, and it's standing opposed to the Nachash and the Samach Mem. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac Chaver, the student of the Gra. When Klal Yisrael is b'machloikes, Kudsha Brichu and the Shechina separate. And the Samach Mem and the Nachash unite. And they bring destruction to the world. And when Klal Yisrael is b'achdus, Kudsha Brichu and Shechina unite. And the Samach Mem and the Nachash, they separate. That's the way it goes. And therefore, says Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac Chaver, there is no Avera in the Torah worse than Machloikes. You know why? Because literally, all devastation in the world comes from Machloikes. When there's Machloikes, God, the Kudsha Brichu Shechina separate, and the Samach Mem and the Nachash get together. When there's Shalom, then Kudsha Brichu Shechina come together, and the Samach Mem and the Nachash separate. Now you're going to hear the second biggest chiddush of the century, maybe of the millennia. People go to the Svarim store and they put up these big signs, Mazel Adar Dogim, with like this friendly fish, like from a cartoon, like from Charlie Brown or something, right? Like this googly-eyed fish that makes you feel good. Oh, Mazel Adar Dogim. But Chazal say that when Haman saw that the Mazel Adar Dogim, he was happy because he'll be able to destroy Klal Yisrael. Are you telling me Haman looked at that cartoon fish and he said, "Oh, the scary fish is coming. I'm going to be able to destroy the Jews." I mean, that fish is the most, wacky looking character in the world. I mean, it's like a cartoon character. It makes you smile. Is that really what empowered Haman? Because he saw Mr. Googly-eyed fish? What exactly is the Mazal Adar Dagim? The answer is, this Mazal Adar Dagim has been homogenized and sanitized for kindergarten people. So it makes them feel good that this is a fish that they have, like a goldfish. Although Haman is not getting empowered by that fish that you buy on that poster. You know who the Dagim are? Chazal say that when Hashem created the world, He created the world b'taninim gedolim, big monsters. And if these two monsters, the Levyasan and its mate, got together, they would destroy the world, so God had to kill one and salt the other. You know who the two fish of Adar are? The Samach Mem and the Nachash. So that's the last time you're putting up like Mazal Adar Dogim in your shul. Mazal Adar are the two monsters. And Haman was very empowered. The Dogim here are the Nachash and the Samach Mem. And you ever wonder, the Mazal of Nisan is what? What? The Tle, right? The sheep. And the Mazal of Sivan are twins, and the Mazal of, you have a bucket, and you have Besula, and you have all kinds of, and Adar is plural, Dagim. Which Dagim? Two fish, the Samach Mem and the Nachash. And when Adar comes out in a regular year, they get together and they destroy the world. So Hashem orchestrated, according to Yerushalmi, that the year that the Purim story happened, Yerushalmi says it was an Iber Yar, to keep the Nachash away from the Samach Mem. They purposely were Ma'aber the Shana to split up these two monsters. Otherwise, they would literally destroy the world. So when Haman pointed out, Yashnoi Am Echad, Mefuzar Mefayrad, Bein Ha'amim, he was saying the Jewish people are disparate. The Shechina and the Kutchabricha are away from each other. Achashverosh, you have nothing to worry about, because now they're not connected to Hashem. Now they have to connect to a Mazel. They have no Mazel. We're going to destroy them. We're going to unleash the Nachash and the Samach Mem, says Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac Chaver. And therefore, what's the Eitzah to overcome Haman? The Machzas HaShekel. Why? Say Glatstein, Kisisa was 2 weeks ago. Well, relax, okay? The Machzas HaShekel says that we're all equal. I'm not better than you. I'm not more important than you. You're as valuable as I am. We're all equal. We're all part of the same team. Ha'asher lo yarbe. You can't give more. You can't give less. Everyone is equally valued in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The purpose of the Machzas HaShekel is to create Jewish unity. As the Al-Shech HaKadosh quotes Reb Shlomo Al-Kabitz, look number 4, he famously says that the purpose of Machzas HaShekel is L'hoirois, es b'nei Yisrael, Yachas Achdusam, Bal Yale Alei Vishmehem, Shu Nifrad Mechaveroi. Let nobody think that he's separate from his friend. Kiyim Ki'ilu Kol Echad Chatzi. Rather, everyone is only half. And when we join together, nasa echad shalem. So I give a machzis, you give a machzis, to indicate we are a davar shalem together. Therefore, the Machzas HaShekel preempted Haman. Haman says we're we're disparate, we're b'machloikis, we can't get along. So we preempt him on Rosh Chodesh Adar with the Machzas HaShekel to demonstrate achdos. And what do we do with the Machzas HaShekel? We give it to the Mishkan. And what did they make out of the Mishkan? Says Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac Chaver, this week's Parsha, they have a Chumash, they take the Machzas HaShekel, and they make it into Adonim. What are the Adonim? Shkoyach everyone. What are the Adonim? They're the sockets that the planks stand in. Meaning, what does the Mishkan stand on? The Machzas HaShekel. On the Achdus Yisrael. The entire Mikdash and the Mishkan stands on Achdus Yisrael. Now we understand how Sinas Chinam destroys the Beis HaMikdash. Because without, the Beis HaMikdash stands on the Adonim, which is the Achdus Yisrael. When we don't have Achdus, the Mishkan has nothing to stand on. So that is the basis of the Mishkan. That is the basis of the Mikdash. The Adonim, and the Adonim were produced from the Machzas HaShekel, meaning the Beis HaMikdash stands on Achdos Yisrael. Now it's very interesting, because was that the only thing that they used for the Mishkan, or for the Machzas HaShekel? Were the Adonim the only thing they made out of the Machzas HaShekel? Anyone remember? What else did they make out of the Machzas HaShekel? The hooks. So it says like this. I once heard from Rabbi Yisrael Reisman, there's a halacha. How many people make up a Rishus Harabim D'Oraisa? 600,000. Why? Because the Machane Yisrael in the Midbar were 600,000 Jews. No, they weren't. We read in this week's Parsha, how many Jews were there in the Midbar? There were 603,550. So where did this come from? 600,000 Jews. There's no such thing as 600,000 Jews. There never were 600,000. The Machane Yisrael were 603,000. So why is it that if someone carries in a Rishus with 600,000 Jews, they're chayiv for violating Shabbos? Why should they be chayiv? You still need another 3,550. Now, 600,000 Jews who contributed to the Machzas HaShekel, their 600,000 Machzas HaShekel went to make 100 Adonim. But the 1,775 shekel, which came from the 3,550, they went for the Vavim. It could be, Rabbi Reisman suggests, not all the Jews walked in the Machane Yisrael, because we know there were many Jews expelled from the Anan. The Anan expelled many Jews. So it could be, he wants to suggest, only 600,000 Jews were in the Anan. So the 600,000 Jews who were in the Anan, they contributed to the Adonim that were in the Mishkan. And the 3,550 who walked outside of the camp, they contributed to the Vavim that were outside of the Mishkan. Okay. But I just want to add, if the purpose of the Machzas HaShekel is for Achdos Yisrael, then the Adonim we know is what houses the Mishkan. But a Vavin represents a Vav HaChibor, the Vav of attachment, meaning I need to be connected with you. As we know, when Cain killed Hevel, so Chazal say that Hashem made a sign on Cain's forehead. The Zohar says, what was the ois? The letter Vav. He was telling Cain, you wanted to be all by yourself in this world. You felt you didn't need anybody else. The lesson's going to be you're going to have a permanent Vav on your forehead indicating you made a big mistake. In this world, you need other people. You can't be selfish. You can't only be into yourself. So the Vavin also perhaps represent the need for Achdos Yisrael. Now, one little thing. Comes Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz, and Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz wants to know, okay, that means on Rosh Chodesh Adar they announce Mashmim al Hashkolim and on HaKlayim. Right? So what do the two have to do with each other? They make an announcement that you have to give the Machzas HaShekel, and they also make an announcement that you have to get rid of your Klayim. Like Matz Shmita Itzel Har Sinai. So it says Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz, Jewish unity is very important with good people, not with Rishaim. There's no unity with Rishaim. So therefore Chazal reminding us, we all need to be ba'achdos, provided it's min b'minai. We're all the same species. But with those who are not enoi minam, klayim, you gotta get rid of your klayim. In other words, only be ba'achdos with those who are doing the correct thing. That's a little tricky because Yetzer Hara will convince you, they're not doing the correct thing, they're not doing. But there is an objective threshold of when people are acting properly. So all Jews were ba'achdos. So those who are not, so then basically we value them. We say, look, we're here. So that could also be symbolized by 600,000, we make Adonim. And they're all ba'achdos, but they're not ba'achdos with the 3,550. They're sort of on the, they're in the bleachers. So, okay. So that's, now, according to this approach, we understand very beautifully how the Machzas HaShekel is the kapara for Mechiras Yosef. We started off, the Medrash says, that the purpose of Machzas HaShekel, it's a kapara for Mechiras Yosef. What does the Machzas HaShekel got to do with Mechiras Yosef? The answer is very simple. Mechiras Yosef was the paragon, the paradigm, the quintessential example of Sinas Chinam, and the way to correct that is through Machzas HaShekel. Machzas HaShekel brings Achdus Yisrael. Okay, so that would be a very beautiful explanation for the Medrash of how the Machzas HaShekel is a kapara for Mechiras Yosef. So it comes out, the Machzas HaShekel engenders Achdus, and then what do we use the Machzas HaShekel for? The Adonim, and the whole Mishkan then stands on Achdus Yisrael, it stands on the Machzas HaShekel. But here's another incredible pshat. I want to thank my friend Daniel Weinstein, who sent me a Parsha sheet called Kovetz Penine Hashar, where I saw this second approach. What was the sin of Mechiras Yosef? What was sin? You have brothers. They kidnapped their brother. They threw him in a pit with snakes and scorpions. They tried to kill him. They took him away from his father, and they sold him to a foreign land. There is an amazing Yalkut Ruveni. Yalkut Ruveni says in Parshas Toldos that the 100 Adonim that the Mishkan stood on represent another thing in Yiddishkeit, another thing in Judaism, that are 100. What else do we have that's 100? Mea brachos b'chol yom. 100 blessings a day. Yeah, we have 100 blessings a day. When David HaMelech saw that people were dying, he was masakein that you have to make 100 blessings a day. Ma Hashem leikach hashem me'imach al tikri ma ella mea. Somehow the 100 Adonim represent mea brachos b'chol yom, says the Yalkut Ruveni. There's a wondrous Zayar. The Zayar Chadash says in Parshas Chukas, you know what the Aveira of Mechiras Yosef was? That they didn't let Yosef make Mea Brachos B'chol Yom. I mean, that's the problem? They try to kill him. They try to sell him. They could, I don't know if he could wear tefillin. I don't know if he say Shema. That's what we're nailing them for? Yeah. That's what the Zayar says explicitly. The problem with Mechiras Yosef is they tried to take away Mea Brachos. Okay. Now, right off the bat, it comes out very beautiful. Because the Adonim, the 100 Adonim, represent Mea Brachos. What was it made out of? The Machzas HaShekel. So now we see how Machzas HaShekel is a kapara for Mechiras Yosef. The sin of Mechiras Yosef is they took away 100 Brachos. So the tikkun is, give a Machzas HaShekel, establish the Mishkan, which is the reflection, the representation of 100 Brachos b'chol yom. So it comes out quite amazing how the Machzas HaShekel is a kapara for Mechiras Yosef, because Machzas HaShekel was used for the Adonim. The Adonim represent Mea Brachos B'chol Yom, and the sin of Mechiras Yosef was they prevented him from making Mea Brachos B'chol Yom. Now, you're saying, what does this have to do with the mask mandate because of COVID? You'll see. I thought you might ask that question. So we're going to get to that. Because, on Purim we wear masks. But we only wear it on Purim, right? Some people like to have Purim the whole year, so they wear masks more often than that. But that's the big question. What does this year have to do with the mask mandate? The masveh. So we're going to see. It comes to Bnei Yissaschar, and the Bnei Yissaschar says every month has an angel. You know that, Rebbe Ezra? Every month has a malach. What's the malach of Adar? The malach of Adar is Avar Chial. I didn't know that either. But the malach of Adar is Avar Chial. Avarchi, I will bless Kel. In fact, Megala Mukoi says this malach is in charge of 100 blessings. That's his job. If you visit him in his office, he gives you his business card. It says Avar Chial, angel in charge of 100 blessings. Let me say, I don't happen not to have the card on me, but that's what it would say. Avar Chial, he's the angel who's memuna over 100 brachos. So that means the month of Adar is specifically designated for Mea brachos. In fact, One of the ramazim to Mea Brachos is Nu'um HaGever Hukam Oil. Oil is 100. 100 brachos. David HaMelech established 100 brachos. And when you make 100 brachos b'chol yom, it becomes masoik, sweet. The gematria of Nu'um HaGever Hukam Oil is 546, sweet. Who's the opposite? What's the opposite of sweet?
Bitter.
Bitter. Ma ze bitter? Bitter ze be'anglis, aval be'ivrit, mar. Mar. 240. Who else is 240? Amalek. Amalek is mar. He's bitter. 240. Amalek is gematria mar. 240. Got it? So the opposite of Amalek is masaik. 100 brachos is sweet, and Amalek is bitter. When Esther stands up, vatakam is oisios masaik. Vatakam Esther. She's sweet. Now the Svarim HaKadoshim tell us that the 100 brachos are alluded to in the word nun. Nun is spelled nun, nun. Now watch this. Comes a chidah, and the chidah says, where is Amalek merumaz in the Torah? Eidoisecha nemnu me'oid leveischa no'ava kodesh. Got it? Eidoisecha ne'emnu me'oid leveischa no'ava kodesh. Rashi Tevois, Amalek. Eidoisecha, ayin. Ne'emnu, nun. There's no nun. Me'oid, mem. Leveischa, lamed. Kodesh. Eidoisecha, ne'emnu me'oid leveischa no'ava kodesh. That's Amalek. Eidoisecha, but there's a nun. Eidoisecha, ne'emnu me'oid leveischa. No, they're two nuns. Yeah. Amalek's job is to take away the two nuns. Amalek is going to take away 100 brachos. That's Amalek's focus. Amalek wants to rob you of 100 brachos b'chol yom. Because Amalek says, why are you thanking Hashem for the water? It's a coincidence. Why are you thanking Hashem for clothing? It's a coincidence. Why are you thanking Hashem for shoes? It's a coincidence. Why are you thanking Hashem for chicken? It's a coincidence. It's all mikra. Amalek doesn't believe in hashgacha. So Amalek is Eidoisecha ne'emnu me'oid leveischa no'ava kodesh. Amalek's going to rob you of 100 brachos. So what do we do? And when Amalek's going to rob us of 100 brachos, we're dead. Maves. So what do we have? How do you fix maves? You have to give mishloach manois. You got to get in two nuns. So maves, you stick one nun into one manois, and then to another guy you give mishloach manois again, and you put in the second nun. So mishloach manois is going to fix Amalek. Amalek brings a maves to the world. Mem, vav, taf. And how do you fix it? You got to stick in the two nuns. Don't just give one guy Mishlach Manos, because then you're going to be like 50-50. 50-50 guys they flunk. So you have to go Manos. Manos, you're going to stick in the nun to one guy, stick in the nun, and now the mar, the bitterness of Maves, is going to become, what happens when you stick into Maves two nuns? Mishlach Manos, Manos, you put a kuf in Maves, Masaik, you're back to sweet. You're sweet. So basically, Amalek is death. He's taking out two nuns. He's going to create Maves. He's mar. He's bitter. So if he's bitter, he's going to bring Maves. He is Eidoisecha ne'emnu ma'oid leveischa no'ava kodesh. He's going to remove the two nuns. So we got to stick the two nuns back in, Manois, and then we become Masaik. Now, throughout the Megillah, we have many ramazim to the 100 brachos. For example, Ki chein yisad hamelech. Ki is 30, chein is 70, is 100. Or, Vayasem hamelech achashverosh. Mas is 100, the 100 brachos. Now, yes. Let me just see, 1 second. So, I saw this, I'm not sure where it went right now, what's the Indian of putting on a mask on Purim? The Samach Mem is 100. He wants to take away the 100 brachas b'chol yom. So you know what we're going to do? What else does the Samach Mem want to do? We know Amalek comes and says, Ki yad al case ka. What letters does he take away? The Vav and the Hey. So we got to knock him out. How do we knock him out? First we punch him until he's completely flipped around. And he becomes from Samach Mem, he turns into Mem Samach. Once he becomes Mem Samach, we bring back the Vav and the Hey, and we make him into Masveh. When you put on a mask, now you have to know what the kavana is when you put on the mask. The kavana of putting on the mask is you're knocking, you're punching the Samach Mem, you're flipping him around, he's becoming Mem Samach, and then you bring back the Vav K, and that's the mask. Right? I'm sure that's what your kavana is when you put on the masveh.
Not the pandemic mask, a different mask.
On Purim you can wear whatever mask you want. Okay. So now this is Oyam V'Noira. What was the sin of Mechiras Yosef? Remember, what did the Zohar say? What was the sin of Mechiras Yosef? Daniel. What did they stop Yosef from doing? 100 brachas. You know, Chazal, the Torah says that when Yosef was being sold, Hashem made a great miracle. That the Arabs that were transporting Yosef, they were carrying nichais, the tsari, they smelled good. And this was a big miracle that this tzaddik shouldn't have to suffer from a bad smell. Usually they carry bad smelling things. I have a question. This guy, Yosef's been kidnapped. He's being held hostage by terrorists. They belong to every terrorist group in the world. You think he was happier that his terrorists were wearing a very pleasant smelling cologne? Like Yosef was saying, thank you Hashem that I'm being terrorized by pleasant smelling terrorists. I mean, what exactly is the kavan of Chazal? Oh, they're carrying besamim. What was the sin of Mechiras Yosef? The sin was that they stopped Yosef from making Me'ah Brachas. Now, what do you do when you're in a jam and it's hard to make Me'ah Brachas? What do we do on Yom Kippur? People pass around the besamim. Why? You can't eat, you can't drink, you're lacking Me'ah Brachas. So besamim is always the go-to way. So Hashem said, Shvatim, you think you're going to keep away from Yosef Me'ah Brachos? I'm going to make sure that these Arabs are carrying every kind of Atzei Besamim, Izbei Besamim, Mine Besamim. This way Yosef will be smelling Besamim the whole time. He'll get in his 100 brothers. That was the Inyan, says one of the Talmidei Hagoyin, Tiferes HaGershuni. That was the Inyan why these Arabs were carrying various kinds of Besamim. So, it comes out very remarkable. Says the Sefer Kovetz Penine Hashar that Amalek is here in this world to do what? To take away from Klal Yisrael the Kuf, 100. They're Eidoi Secha, Ne'em Nu Ma'oid, Leveischa No'avakar. They're going to take away the two nuns and they're going to make Masoik into Maves. So how do we counteract them? Who are the two heroes of Purim? Mordechai and Esther. Mordechai is Rosh Besamim. Esther is Hadas, another kind of Besamim. Because they're going to say, Haman, you're going to take away 100 brachas? The Besamim are here. You can never take away the 100 brachas. That's why the heroes of Purim are compared to Besamim. Besamim is always the security blanket when you're being challenged with the Me'ah brachas. Bottom line is, so Haman's coming to be Mamayid from Klal Yisrael Me'ah brachas. So how do we preempt him? We preempt him by giving Machzas HaShekel. What does the Machzas HaShekel go to? The 100 Adonim, which represent the Me'ah Brachos B'chol Yom. So that's another way how we preempt Haman. And that's how Rabbi say the Machzas HaShekel is the kapara from Mechiras Yosef. Mechiras Yosef was trying to take away from Klal Yisrael Me'ah Brachos. And the Machzas HaShekel build an edifice that magnify and disseminate to the world Me'ah Brachos B'chol Yom. So it comes out very beautiful. There are two really chatoim of Mechiras Yosef. There's lack of achdus, machloikes. That's cured by Machzas HaShekel, and that's what the Mishkan stands for. The other chesaron in Mechiras Yosef is that they took away from Yosef Me'ah Brachos, and therefore Hashem made sure that the Arabs were carrying all kinds of besamim, hadassim, nichos, tsari, veloid, shkedim, all the ala, feine, shmecken, right? All the good smelling things. And by giving the Machzas HaShekel, we preempt Haman's attempt to create maves in the world. He takes away the two nuns. He is And we preempt him by building the great edifice of the Mishkan, by giving the Masas HaShekel, and making the 100 Adanim, which teach the world about 100 brachos. Okay, Marv Rabbi, this concludes Sefer Shemais. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should be mevarech all of us with chizuk in all inyanim, especially b'limud Torah. We should all be zoicha to the bracha we're going to say of chazak, chazak, v'nis chazek, and wishing everyone a freilichen chodesh Adar. We should only have a month of Yeshuos, v'nachamos, and simcha, lanu l'chol Yisrael. Amen. Okay. I'm going to tell you that.
Why'd you start with the Pidyon HaBen? You asked about Pidyon HaBen.
Yeah, that's because the Medrash begins with Pidyon HaBen is a kapara from Mechiras Yosef. That was just a side point.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.